Hey, what's good, everybody? Hope you are all well. I've been wanting to make this video for some time. I guess I might as well make it an episode of the podcast, episode 142. I'm gonna talk about something that started, well, actually a little before, right? But it kind of started really taking form around the full moon, right? December 15th. And now it's pretty much calmed down finally, right? But it was a little heavy. I made the video about connecting with Lilith. I actually should have watched it before to so I don't repeat things I said in that video. But after that it kind of just kept going, right? Snowballing, so to speak. My first experience was that, right? Where it felt like I connected with Lilith. So I might as well just share the story. So on the day of the full moon, I've often shared, if you're not familiar with my channel. Well, first off, welcome, but I've shared how a lot of things always happen when I'm in water, right? I'll start having these visions and this and that, right? And obviously, water is like a portal, so it makes perfect sense. So, anyways, I was sitting in the shower, right? And all of a sudden, I had a vision. I saw this woman in front of me. There was a fire in the middle. You could see people sitting around, but she was right in front. And I just felt like, okay, I'm tapping into someone that's doing a moon ceremony, a moon ritual, a ceremony right now under the full moon. So I was like, all right, no biggie, right? I didn't know why. I was trying to see her face. Like, do I know this person? What is this, right? And I just, I stayed with the vision. After that, like, it felt like our consciousness started to merge. So I was kind of, like, my brain was just going, like, thinking, right? Like, I've seen so many of my past lives, alternate realities that I was like, is this, I've never seen myself as a woman. I've seen myself as different animals, different beings, even, right? Different dimensions, planets, all these things, but I've never seen myself as a woman. So it will make sense that at some point I would have, right? So I was like, all right, maybe this is me because we feel so connected, like, there's no way I could be that connected unless maybe that's me, right? In an other reality or in a past life. And then after that, like I seen her stand up and her wings came out, and I was like, what? Like, because you could tell they were like they weren't like the normal angel wings, right? So I was like, what? And then she took off flying, and as she took off flying, it almost felt like we were getting closer and closer, and our consciousness was merging. And I stood up, and I was like, in the past when I had things that would overwhelm me, like years ago, I'll drop to my face. I'll be like, take it away, something, or I'll message someone, pray for me. Something's going on. I don't know, but obviously I've come a long way from that, but it still freaked me out, right? Because it felt like, what is something trying to take over my body, something like so, or my mind. I was like, what's going on, right? So I stood up and I just wrote it out. I was like, wow, whatever happens, like I'm just going, like, feeling this out, whatever is going on, right? So eventually it kind of just, but I could still, like, even now, sometimes when I think about it, it still feels like so present, right? Like if it's happening at the moment. Not right now at this moment, but for a while that after that, right? So anyways, yeah, I got up, dried off whatever, got out the shower, and then it was just still present, and I was just processing it, like, what was that? So anyway, I think the next day or a couple of days after, I don't know, maybe the next day I went to yoga, and I was speaking to this person there, and I was telling her about my experience, and she was like, "Oh, that sounds like Lilith," and I was like, "Lilith," and then she was all excited because she was talking about how Lilith is considered the untamed feminine, and I was like, "Wow, that makes sense," because I had just, whether it was a day before or a couple of days before, I think I had just or I don't know how long it was, right? Maybe it was recent though, right? Within maybe a month before that, at the longest, I'm thinking that I had announced, okay, I'm gonna start doing readings. I made the little thing where people could contact me, um, you know. I had finally like, okay, after all this time, like I was finally at a place where I wasn't gonna doubt myself anymore, right? Where I was like, okay, I've probably done like 50 free readings, not tarot readings. I'm talking about just tapping in and this and that. Um, where I had enough confidence at that point, right? Based on the results of these readings and everything like that. So I was like, all right, um, I finally, that, right? Because the universe had thrown me into that anyways, right? It's like when you're ready, the universe kind of just like pushes you off the ledge, so to speak, right? And then you either fly or you whatever. And so I flew, right? So it was like, all right, I had just stepped into that, accepted that of myself, and so now all of a sudden the untamed feminine, and when we think about historically what happened, obviously, like we know men as well got murdered in these ways, but number one was women, right? If you think about like maybe not on the native side, right? Because I know even up to the 1979 or something, 1970s here in the US, medicine men and women will get put into mental institutions when they would practice their traditional ways, right? The spiritual their spiritual native ways, right? They would put them into mental institutions, right? So there's a lot of trauma in that. Um, but on the other side, right, those that practice those kind of ways, like it was mostly women, right, that were burned as witches, right? Whether in, I guess, Europe or even here in the US and all that stuff, right? When whatever, right? So, anyways, it will make sense that stepping into that had a connection to the feminine energy, right? Of that, right? Like almost like something waiting, right? Like it had to be now, right? Imagine that all these like spirits or ancestors knowing like, wow, you know, having to be quiet, like going kind of, not that I'm here to avenge anybody, right? But it's just about having the courage to stand and be like, yeah, I don't care. Like nobody's gonna like, I mean, someone could say something, but best believe I am someone that, you know, will, I mean, not if it's not like if it's something like I don't even care, I don't care, right? It doesn't even affect me, right? But it like obviously, right? We live in a time now where like you can't, right? It's not, you can't just like tell someone, "Oh, you're a witch," and most people will answer you back, right? So we live in those times where people aren't afraid, right? But for me, I guess I know I have what is called the witch wound where, you know, it came up, right? Because I had already experienced it. And then even when a friend of mine did a reading for me, like she did a past life thing and it was unexpected, it just came out and I was like, wow. And I got the worst, it was like the most painful chills I had ever gotten when she said that about, my wife being killed, my baby being killed, me being killed kind of thing in that setting, right? Of whether my wife was a witch or, whatever the word, what is the word witch really mean anyways? I know it has the negative connotation. Whatever. Well, we know, right? It's the negative connotations that they give it, right? But it's not, maybe it was just people that were tapped in, right? And then that word became something like, evil, except now, right? In today's time, finally, right? So, anyways, it made sense to me. Okay, Lilith is coming to me with that. Okay, it makes sense, right? But after it was even deeper because the fact that our consciousness was merging, it was like I felt very like that, like because even that this person that was telling me she was very. I even told her after I was like, man, why are you so educated about all this stuff? And she said because she studied it in college, right? That's what her bachelor's. She received it in that, right? She was studying all like and we both didn't like the word mythology, but it was like, oh, we both studied like well, I mean, we both didn't like the word mythology, right? But that's what she had studied. She knew about all these different things in history, right? So even that, I know that at some point, right, it was like Lilith and Adam were like thought of as equal, right? Or something like that in the stories, right? And that, they said like, oh, Lilith wouldn't bow down to Adam or something like that, right? There was even one story where I heard that it was like Lilith was literally like like Adam was split into two and Lilith was like one part and Adam was the other, but I couldn't find it. Like I heard it, I think on a video, but I don't want to misinform or anything like that, right? I just knew from what I was studying, right? So, anyways, so that's kind of how it went, right? And I started feeling like, oh wow, like almost this thing of me stepping, having that divine masculine and divine feminine, and the two coming together to be who I am, like at this very moment, right? And even me being who I am, right? Because even this person that was telling me, like they brought up like the patriarchy, and I was like, you know what? Like I'm with all that, right? Like I've never, because usually when people talk about patriarchy stuff, like against the patriarchy, they start bashing on men, and I've never. So even with me standing firm on that, right? Getting very annoyed and irritated when people bash on men, right? And start with the whole patriarchy thing. Lilith still came to me, right? And she was only the first, like, it wasn't even just her, right? In the past, because she brought up Kali too. And I was like, oh, Kali came to me. And she was like, what? And so she was like, wow, all these divine, like, feminine goddesses or beings are coming to you. And she was really like excited about it, right? Because it meant like, because usually there's the symbols of like, a lot of women use for empowerment, right? Like in that case, right? But to me, it was like I'm very respecting of both energies, right? I've always said that, right? I acknowledge that need both because we have both, right? Every single person has masculine and feminine energy, right? So I'm very respective of both and their differences, right? And how they can blend to make something even greater, right? All that. So with that, I guess me being and having that kind of understanding, Lilith came to me. And then after, right, we had this conversation. And within a couple of days, I went on a hike before the sun came up. And I'm praying, whatever. I went up on a hill, I'm praying. And then after that, an owl comes like right by the tree next to me and it sits there. And I'm like, what? Like, I'll get to a tree sometimes, there's an owl, and then it'll be there hooting and stuff. And then it'll like fly away or something like that if I get too close, like trying to see or something. But or they'll come fly around me and stuff like that. But this one just came and perched on the tree right next to me as I'm praying. So I was like, okay, that's strange. I don't remember that really happening before, right? Like I said, they'll come fly around me and then go or something like that. And it always feels like a blessing, right? Like oh wow, you know. Um, but then after too, like as I was going, there was this guy with a dog that passed by, and the dog starts crying like it's trying to go to me and go to me. And the guy's looking at me like he starts laughing like what the hell's wrong with my dog? Like and it's going, and later on I ran into him again, and the dog starts trying to go to me again, and it's even choking itself, like crying. And not in a barking way or nothing. It was just trying to like get close to me. And the guy's like, what is up with my dog thing, right? He's looking at me, and I'm like, oh. So then after, like, as I'm hiking, I was like, wow, I was thinking that, like, wow, it feels like this weird, like, initiation almost. And then boom, I look down and there's like the whitest feather, right? So I give an offering and I take the feather and I'm like, oh, wow, okay. So talk about a confirmation, right? So after, when I see the person again, I tell them about this and the owl and the dog, and they're like, oh, that sounds like Hecate, right? I know some people say Hecate, but I don't know. When I read it, it said Hecate, right? Hecate. So I'll just say it like that, right? So anyways, well, I'll say Hecate. I don't know. It sounds like whatever. Everyone says it different. Hecate. So anyways, she's like, oh, that sounds like Hecate. I was like, I don't even know who that is. Watch it. And I pulled it out real quick. Well, I should have read the Lilith thing, right? They say Lilith is associated with several things like the moon, the night, right? The Empress and the High Priestess in tarot, um, the dark moon. And I had just talked to, and wasn't that like something happened on the black moon, right? Recently. I don't know. So all this stuff, right? Lilith is a figure in Jewish folklore who is sometimes depicted as a demon, vampire, goddess, or sorceress. Her name is thought to come from the Mesopotamian demon class Lilu, which translates to night monster, right? So that's Lilith, right? Then Hecate is a Greek goddess associated with magic, witchcraft, the moon, and the night. Her symbols include torches, keys, dogs. See, so the dog thing came up. So all this stuff. She's also said like to be like the goddess of the crossroads, right? Something like that. I forgot what they said, right? That it says that she's at the crossroads or something, right? A goddess of crossroads magic, poison, and the undead, right? So it was funny because even that, right? Like the torch, the keys, right? Like I've seen the keys in like in visions, right? So the keys were very significant to me, right? Also, I have a tattoo of a torch, right? And then I had just done a song with someone that wasn't even my song. They invited me on a song and it's called Crossroads. And I talked about walking in both worlds. And I didn't even know, I didn't think about it. They sent me the song. That's not even what they're talking about. And I just went into the whole spiritual thing about walking in both worlds and like things like that, right? Like sometimes like people everybody wants something, but they really don't know what they're asking for, right? Like the things I've seen, if you're not prepared for it, like it might catch you by surprise. Even this. So I'm gonna get to what happened, right? So, anyways, she talked about Hecate, right? And then I was like, oh man, that's crazy. That makes sense because the dogs, right? And when I literally looked her up, that's the first thing that popped up. And I can't even find that picture anymore. I should have screenshotted it, but it was literally Hecate with a dog and an owl. And I was like, whoa, those are the two that came to me, right? The dog and the owl. So I was like, oh wow, the torches, the dog, the owl, uh, the keys, the crossroads. So there were just so many things that I was like, all right. And I've seen her now, like, but the way I seen her in a vision, it like she didn't look the way they depict her, right? Like all dark. She actually looked light, which I actually looked it up. I think in older traditions, she was depicted more like that. She wasn't depicted in the dark way that they depict her now, right? I think they even say like she's the queen of the underworld or something like that. So, anyways, I know this is long, but hey, it is what it is because it's been so much. So after all that, I was like more like, okay, yeah, they're definitely coming to me, and it reminded me of that, right? Like in some tribes, how a council of like women will elect the chief, right? Not that oh I'm a chief of something, but it was like I was clearly being initiated, and it felt like everything that had to do with me stepping into, like, it feels like walking this path for the rest of my life, really, right? About doing like just the spiritual walk, unapologetic, right? Like, hey, sorry if it doesn't, yeah, religions, they suppressed my ancestors for over 500 years, right? Like they murdered so many innocent people, this and that. Sorry, I'm not gonna be apologetic now, and I'm never gonna join these religions or things like that. It's like finally like not that my line hasn't been drawn in the sand forever, but it was like stepping into that next phase, right? Like of okay, yeah, this is who I am, unapologetic, right? Like I'm not gonna hide it, right? I'm not gonna even dim that part of me, right? I know it makes people uncomfortable, but just like that, and them working with me, right? Like Lilith having my back, right? Hecate having my back. Kali from before was trying to show me, um, you know, and I regretted it because when she caught me off guard, and I was like, almost like picture you're walking and you're like, oh, yeah, and then you go in the other direction. When Kali came to me, she looked so like I thought it was some demon or something, but I didn't feel any negative energy. And I was like, wait, what just, she didn't mean me harm. Like, what would, and then when I looked her up, she was the breaker of obstacles. And I was going through something at that time. So she was coming to help me, right? So, anyways, right, they've all been there, like, they've been present for a long time. I even had a vision of death once, Um, because even that when I've looked up like all these divine feminine aspects, it says like even that, right? Like I know Santa Muerte has a negative thing because they say a lot of people that do kind of like in a bad stuff kind of pray to her and this and that, which from the sounds of it, it's like she always gives something, but after takes something in return, right? So I think that's very important to say that, to segue into that is I've never asked for nothing. Even now, I didn't ask for help from nobody, right? But for some reason, that's why I felt even more like the fact that they were coming to me meant like there was something that they saw, right? Like that. Like I've never once asked that, right? Or for my own personal thing to see, like, oh, let me see what someone's doing. Let me this. Let me do a spell. Let me nothing, nothing, nothing ever. No spells, no, like now doing readings is for people, right? Like if people want to know for healing, right? I've even said it in that way, right? Hey, I'm gonna do readings specifically for healing. If you want to know about, if someone has a crush on you or if someone's cheating on you or this and that, like that's not what I'm gonna like the readings, right? Like the actual psychic readings. I'm not talking about if I do general readings online and boom, whatever comes out, comes out. But when I'm actually offering readings to somebody in in that way using just like the or whatever, looking at the books, right? Inside like yeah, I don't do it in that way. It's like for healing, right? So I think that was the main thing, right? They were coming to me, right? It was just very like that, right? Reaching a point of understanding or seeing that, okay, I'm stepping into this almost like a mastery of the divine feminine and the divine masculine. Because like I said, I've never shied away, right, from defending men when, the men bashing begins. I know I get it, right? Like it's unfortunate because the pendulum swings, right? Um, oh, let me say this is an important point, right? So that gave me even more that okay, there is something about this whole patriarchy thing that makes sense spiritually, right? Like in a lot of other things now, I don't agree with what people say, but when it came to spirituality, definitely, right? Because that's what happened when I started looking up all these divine feminines. Everything was negative, right? Oh, Lilith is a demon. Oh, this witch, the blah blah blah. She's the like the ruler of hell and this and that, and even Circe came up, right? Because when we were having this conversation, this big old hawk came up, with the woman that was telling me all this stuff about Hecate and Lilith and Kali and all these different divine feminines. This huge hawk comes and sits on the tree right next to it. And even that, like the first day, I think when we're talking about Lilith, a butterfly came right there and was flying, and she's like, oh, a butterfly, and I didn't even see it. I was like, that. And then the next day when we're talking about Hecate, is like uh a bird or something posted. And then we're talking about something else, and a big old hawk comes and it's like it keeps spreading its wings. So and she says that's kind of significant of Circe. Sometimes I was like, oh wow, who's that? Like I don't know anything about Circe, and I guess they say she's the first sorceress in the Greek mythology that came out or something. So I don't know. But anyways, I realized after going down the rabbit hole after she's telling me this, because I wanted to know why they're coming to me, what's going on with this. Everything was negative. So I started getting anxiety because it's so deeply embedded. All the religion thing is so deeply embedded that I was like, well, what? Why are they coming? Is it in a manipulative way? Like, are they trying to get me on their side or something like this evil thing, right? Like Lilith is even shown as a what is it called, the succubus or something like that, the that being that comes and I think it's even said in her story that she would come and sleep with men, sleep with men while they were. So there's all these negative type stories, right? So I like, what are they trying to do, right? And then my brain had to, because I was getting anxiety for a few days, just like not understanding, right? And feeling that great like merge with like Lilith. So I was like, what? So finally my brain did. I was like, well, yeah, that's true. Like, well, how come Zeus probably did more? And if you read, like, there's more bad things that Zeus did in mythology than or in the stories, whatever. So why is he still like, even if you were to mention Zeus like at a church or something, they'd probably be like, oh, Zeus, they wouldn't even think twice. But if you mention, if they're aware of Hecate or Lilith, right? They'll be like, oh, Lilith, that's the the demon, that's the female Satan or something, right? So then my brain thought about it, and I was like, well, even I've had a vision of Satan coming to me and trying to like win me over, right? Very charismatic, very, and I've only seen him maybe like 4 times in my whole life or something. And the last time, you know, and I had a negative feeling, right? He was telling her, oh, he's joining us. And I was like, hell no, I didn't say anything. Like, what are you talking about? And I was like, in this vision, I was trying to leave. And I was like, are they about to kill me or not? Because they didn't want to hurt me. They were trying to get me to join, stuff like that. And so I was like, I'm good, you know. Um, what do you call it? So in this experience with all of these figures, Lilith, Hecate, uh, Kali, right? I didn't feel nothing negative at all. Like no negative feeling, right? I was it was uh overwhelming, I guess, extreme when that connection, right? But I felt it before. It's, like when you really have some kind of spiritual boom, and it's just like exaggerated, right? Like yeah, our consciousness was just merging. So it was like, it's something I've experienced before, right? I've experienced it with who we call like God, the Great Spirit, right? I've had that connection where it lasted like 2 days, and it was like, and this is when I was, I don't know, mid 20s, late 20s, I don't even know, but it was super strong and it lasted like 2 days. But this time, I guess just because of how they put, oh, Lilith is evil or this and that. So I finally surrendered to it. It took me maybe a week even or longer, and I surrendered to it, right? And after that, it feels like it's just that, right? Like about this is the time, right? This is the time. There's no hitting reverse now, right? There's no hitting reverse, and you see it, right? I was just having a hard time with it. Maybe and that has to do with past lives and this and that. Like one of the things, even that, when I was first experiencing spiritual things, just knowing the story of Jesus was bad enough for me not to not want to say nothing, because I was very aware at even a young age, and just reading the story of Jesus, being very familiar with the Bible, right? I was like, well, they murdered him, so why am I gonna want to say anything, right? Like, so even that was enough to put me, and I've had visions now of that, like, wow, like I couldn't believe it. Like I've had visions of actually being there, right? When something happened, right? So, of course, why wouldn't I have traumas you know, in my, universal memory bank, right? Why wouldn't I have, why wouldn't it be so hard to just accept and be like, in this life, right? To be like finally surrender to it, like, hey, well, damn, this is the time, right? If ever there was a time, for all indigenous peoples around the world, for all people that identify as witches, and in a good way, right? Like I said, maybe I felt that was the honor, right? Why they came to me, or so many, like even orishas, right? Once I had a vision that someone was trying to send a feminine orisha at me, and all the orishas got there to defend me. And then the orisha, she kind of looked like very scary looking, right? But she was like, "Oh, okay, like okay, I can't, like They were like, "No, like no." They were all there, like, "No, you don't touch him," right? And I was like, I was like, "Wow, okay." So, and I didn't know nothing about orishas, right? But then I looked them up, right? Um, yeah. So even that, right? Like there's been all these figures, and I think it's because of that, right? Because I don't come at it at a, like I said, I've never done it for in a personal way of oh, give me this, give me that. I want this power, I want this, I want that, right? Like all this stuff, right? It's more of that, right? Like in a service to humanity sort of way, right? Like, and in this lifetime I have been very reluctant, right? Very like like no, I don't want this kind of thing, right? Like, but there's sometimes, I think they already knew eventually I was gonna, I think they saw it long before, I did that. They had already seen the choice I had made at some point, right? But still, everything plays out as it's supposed to. Because if they give you everything at once, it's so overwhelming, right? All the things, like I said, even this experience, all the things I've experienced in my life already, and this experience still threw me for a loop, right? I got anxiety again and this and that, and I hadn't in quite some time got an anxiety, and this hit me like, oh, the wait, why is this demon woman, merging with me and this and that, and then it was like, dude, well, why is she thought of as that, right? I didn't even get a bad feeling from her. Like, why the hell do they call her this demon or Hecate? Who, I know there's all these. Watch. Oh yeah, because Hecate is like a protector, right? They say that she protects and this and that, right? I think even the story of Circe, I think things had happened to her before she, because I guess, they say that she turns, like on her island, like she turned men into like wolves and lions or different things, right? So, so that's why, she gets that negative thing. And she's, I guess, in the Odyssey or Odysseus even has kids with her though. So it's interesting, right? But she had turned like his men into, I don't know if it was pigs or this or that, right? But whatever, right? So, anyways, that was my story. Let me know if you had a similar experience, right, with Hecate and Lilith and all of them, right? Like I said, all of them that have came to me. Even when the Palladians came to me, it was the woman that came up, right? And she was wearing a crown and like 9 feet tall or something, and you know, we just had this connection, right? But that one was with the heart, so that was the interesting thing. This time, Lilith and I connected with Lilith from the mind, right? But it would felt like the spiritual mind, right? The crown, the third eye, or I mean, it really didn't feel so much. It was like the crown, right? That's where it felt that we were connecting, right? Like even higher than just the third eye. It was like, and when I met like the Palladian, like me and her connected in our heart, right? So I was like, oh, this is my star family. This is who I come from, right? Because it took like 2 months to shake that off, right? Like, yeah, it was just like so strong. I've never felt love like that, like that. That's been the strongest, right? So, anyways, yeah. So let me know if anything like that has ever happened to you. Going forward, I have just surrendered to it, and I'll do, try to learn the most I can on this journey, right? I'm forever learning, forever transforming, right, into something else, something else, something else, and yeah, it's just navigating, right? Because in my own journey, I'm 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 always gonna lean towards the positive, right? And I get it. The only thing that really is like, there's people that are just hurt, right? And then they want to hurt others, right? So that's really what I've came across in life, right? It's more like that, like meeting the hurt people that want to hurt. And it's like, hey, like I'm the nicest person in the world that's willing to help others, but not and with certain boundaries now, right? I had to learn that that was one of my hardest lessons to put up boundaries and be like, hey, I don't got enough energy to carry all your weight, right? Like if you're not gonna do some work, like yeah, I can't, like I'm not that person, right? I'm not gonna do it for you because I could die trying to help you, or I can help like 100 other people, right? Or stuff like that. So because I've tried. I only say it like not in a mean way, but because I've already tried that and I've seen it's like it becomes like an endless hole, right? Where I guess you enable certain people and they just want more and more and more. And whatever. That's not even important. That's neither here nor there. So, I'm grateful once again to all these divine feminine energies that have came, right? Divine goddesses, deities. Um, yeah, definitely things have been, that's a very patriarchy kind of thing, right? In that sense, right? That's where I'm 1,000,000% in agreement that their images have been, I don't know, defiled is the right word, but definitely not given the credit or respect that they should be given, right? Um, Yeah, because they're very real to me, right? I didn't have to go read it, but like they came to me. So to me, they're very real. Very, it's not a myth, right? They're not mythological beings. They're very real because they made themselves known, right? Uh, so to me, they're very real and they deserve all the respect that they've even given me, right? So I respect them wholeheartedly and I'm grateful. And on that note, I'll end it there. Thank you so much. And let me know in the comments if you've experienced something. Peace.
Life may move fast, or it may move slow. I met a silly man who said he make it slow. We look up out towards space, or even at the sky. One day pass away, but never look inside. Breathe in, breathe out. Life is amazing, but we'll figure this out. I mean, human beings, I ain't got no doubt.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sometimes you just feeling it, you know what I'm saying? You just feeling it. And I wanna feel this way forever, forever.